Michelle, good morning to you.
Morning, Gerry. How are you?
Very well, welcome.
Thank you.
Put your hand on the radio. You can do it, can't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm here.
Now, you come from a family of 13, 11 girls and 2 boys.
That's right, Gerry, yeah. And really, I'm just ringing. If anyone, general public, can tell me anything about... there's 7 girls in a row. There's 8 and there's 9 girls in a row. So the 7th girl is meant to have the cure for ringworm. And I'm just wondering, does anyone know what the 8th and 9th... I know they have the cure for ringworm as well, but is there any additional...
Now, have
cures?
they actually got these powers?
Yeah, they have, yeah.
How do you know she's got the cure for ringworm?
Well,
have you seen ringworm running away from her?
No. We actually put worm in her hand and close her left hand and close the hand, and the worm would die in her hand, curl up in a ball.
Is that not just squashing the worm to death?
No, it's not squashing the worm, because when we were children, I would have been young now when Aisling was born. She's the 7th, and as children we'd be very curious, trying to kill the worms and I'd do all sorts, but no, when she closed her hand, the worm would curl up and die. So, like, a lot of people come to her as well. And there's the 8th, Emer, and Avril is the 9th. And people come from all over the country just to get eczema, dermatitis, roundworm, threadworm, their hands in their tummy. And I'm just wondering, can anyone tell us any more about it? I know the 7th daughter as well, or the 7th son, of a 7th son, the fortune-telling abilities and all this. And
what have you got? What can you do?
I can do, I can talk just about. I know
think you find most women have that power.
I know, like Gerry as well, there's cures for many things. I was working as a nurse in Mullingar, and I was talking to this lovely patient, he was a gentleman, and he was telling me that he'd the cure for thrush. His father had died before he was born, and he was blowing to the person's mouth.
He'd blow into the person's mouth, and that would cure thrush.
Cure thrush.
Wrong end.
Well, I don't know. And, like, if you marry the same person with the same surname as yourself, that you're meant to have a cure for something, there's a load of different things, and it's not something you can look up on the net or read about, it's just word of mouth. We found out from old neighbours.
And do you get people calling up to the house going, "Hey, for a little bit of thrush and some ringworm, I was wondering, could you blow on me?"
Well, it's not thrush, it's more skin conditions. Like, Aisling, like, they're all teenagers now, so they're happy to bypass it over to Avril, who's 13, she's the youngest.
And is she doing a lot of healing?
She has additional powers, or I don't know what cures, but like any type of rashes all over. I've seen people with rashes all over their body coming up from the end of the country, and it's not unusual to find a stranger in the house.
With a rash.
There's enough people anyways, in the house as it is, but you could see someone else's head there in the corner on a Monday, Thursday,
and do they leave cured?
Well, it's like this. They come for 3 visits, and Avril lays her hand on them, and she says a prayer. And on the 2nd visit, sometimes it flares up.
It's like a scene from Ben-Hur, when the lepers come. Come in, bring your bells, unclean.
That's it. Well, it's not as... there's no light shining down from the heavens.
I'm very fond of lepers, actually, myself. As you may know, I have. Stop laughing. I have a leper hospital dedicated to me. Remember, we set up the leper hospital in India. Gerry runs leper hospital, so I do a bit of healing there in the old leper area myself.
Right, Gerry.
I do. You don't believe that, sure you don't.
Well, anything's possible with you, Gerry.
Yeah, well, it's true. I do have a hospital, and I wanted them to put a big sign over it saying Gerry Ryan's Leper Hospital, but they wouldn't do that. It's called the Oingo Boingo Hospital or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's a real hospital, and it's got a lot of facilities, and it's doing really good work there at the moment. And I don't think it's just lepers. I think there's there's non-lepers there as well. Have any lepers come to your home?
Not as bad as that now, but people would be last resort.
Do you not feel a bit
They've tried everything. They've spent thousands on.
But are you not freaked though when you come into the house and there's somebody there
It's
And you're
just
going,
like,
why has he got a muslin bag over his head? Do that, look. Do
I
that,
know, it
look.
wouldn't be like that,
I'm
Gerry. You'd have to
clean.
you'd be very discreet about it and not, you know.
Well, you
it would be-
always have to be
There's so
discreet.
many young people in our house. We'd be running through the house. We wouldn't pass any heed now. You know, it was always the way.
But you've
Like,
got to be discreet. With biblical diseases, you have to be discreet.
Yeah.
I mean,
But like on the second, by the second visit on the Thursday, like it would actually flare up. Like there was one lady, and I was a teenager, so I was studying, but I'd be home the odd day, you know, passing through, and like her hands actually, she rang, and I actually took the call, and she was saying she got an awful fright. Her hands started to weep. Before the second visit, and I said it to Mam. Mam was saying that usually it's the badness coming out, and by the third visit it would be disappearing. Now, it wouldn't cure someone of eczema, but it would cure that flare-up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, of course, there could be a whole host of reasons for that.
Now, this is it. You can meet, you know.
No, but I mean, they even could be associated with, you know, an encounter with your family.
Well, people have come back a second and a third time.
And do you take money from
them? They
them?
must have found some benefit. No, you can't take money, Gerry. It's a gift. It's just
Crap.
using your gift.
That's obviously...
Now, we didn't mind as children. There was a heap of sweets every time someone got left. You know what I mean? So
they'd be just kind of discreetly left. Would you want to eat the leper
2
sweets,
minutes.
though? Would you eat the leper sweets?
Gerry, they wouldn't last 2 minutes in our house. We were thinking like 13 children. Good luck.
So what we need to find out this morning is there's 13 children in this family, 7 girls, isn't it? And
7 girls, 8 girls, 9th girl. Now, you always hear the 7th girl having the cure for ringworm or whatever, but the 8th and 9th...
11 girls and 2 boys, sorry, 11 girls and 2 boys.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is, what are the cures there?
The 8th and 9th, any additional. Now, people come with all types of things, and we don't actually know. It's just from word of mouth, you know, from older relations and older neighbours. It's not something you can look up on the net. Do you know what I mean, Gerry? You can't look up, you know, the cure, like, on the net. I don't think you can, the cure for ringworm.
Of course you can.
Can you?
I'd be absolutely, I bet you something on YouTube with somebody being cured right before your very eyes. I'm not saying that you'll get the truth on the internet, but you'll always get something there. You'll always
It's
get
just like
something.
some people don't believe in it. It's not something that can be medically researched.
Well, do you know what? You can be as cynical and as smart arsed and as stupid as me, and then suddenly you find yourself with one of these conditions. Nothing that conventional medical science has to offer will cure it. And along you go to Michelle's family. And bizarrely, you're cured. And I think that's really the biggest challenge to anybody, is having slagged the backside off.
Well, it's a last resort for a lot of people,
Well, of course,
and it works. You know, well, it has worked. Now, I'm not speaking, but people have come back and said, "Oh my God, I spent 2,000 on a dermatologist,"
and got nowhere.
Yeah.
Where are you, by the way?
I'd be afraid to say in case there's an influx of people to the house. Mammy'll kill me. She's busy enough. I know, Athlone.
Athlone.
Yeah, it would be Athlone.
Athlone. This could be a big, big break for Athlone.
Oh, she's going to kill me.
All roads lead
she'd
to
accept
Athlone.
anyone, of course. Like, it's not.
I can hear the tinkling of the leper bells from all around the country as they head towards Athlone. It's like that up, you know, in Thriller when the zombies are all as they're all heading towards Michael Jackson. Well, obviously it won't be that bad. Or maybe it could be. It could be that bad.
Well, like it can be. Our house is like...
I mean, it's a slow news week, I can tell you.
Times.
The papers will be delighted if you can get some nice lepers out there for a few photo shoots. Now, we're going to find out the information for you and see what else is needed.
If you can, Gerry.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's see if anybody else can help us on 1857 15922. In the meantime, put your hands on the radio. Put your no laughing. Laughing will spoil it, okay? Put your hands on the radio.
Gerry, can I just say hello to all the girls? They're stuck
Jesus,
to the radio.
I'm in the middle of curing people.
Oh, sorry. They're stuck to the radio and they're all listening in that zone. There's around 10 of them stuck to with their hands on the radio, Gerry.
Are they stuck to the radio? If you're stuck to the radio, don't worry, we'll get it away from you in the next few minutes. Sometime between 9 and 12, I will manage to get the radio away from you. All right, good morning, Michelle. Let's hope that we can find out some information. Thank you for brightening up the early part of the morning for us. Good morning. Ian's in trouble. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you?
Not so bad. I'm looking for a little bit of advice.
Okay.
About 3 weeks or so ago, I noticed a wagtail bird flying around the Jeep when I'd park it in the yard, and if I got into it to go away, I'd noticed that she would get agitated. So I didn't put any pass on it for a couple of days, and I was up the road about half a mile one evening, and I saw the wagtail knocking around again, so I still didn't put any pass. And the next morning I said I'd look under the bonnet, and when I looked under the bonnet, there was a nest with 5 eggs in it. And I didn't pay much attention because I remember my grandmother often talking about eggs if they were addled or rattled or something like that, that they probably wouldn't hatch. So that was all right. I went to the mart on...
Where exactly was the nest, Ian?
It's just in front of the radiator in a Mitsubishi Jeep. All
right, so she's looking for a nice hot place and she found it.
I don't know. I don't even know how she got the time to build it, because the Jeep does be out in and out of the yard.
Yeah, it's a working vehicle, yeah.
It's a working vehicle.
Yeah.
And now I looked under the bonnet. I was in the mart last Monday week. I was away for 2, 3, 4 hours. When I came back, she was very agitated. And I looked in and the 5 eggs were there, and I looked in the next morning and there were 4 chicks in it.
It hatched?
Hatched.
She must have done a damn fine job making the nest for you to be able to drive around.
Yeah, well, the nest was there and the eggs were in it, and everything was well on their way before I even realised it. And there are 4 chicks now. There were only 4 chicks hatched, and there are 4 chicks now in it since last Wednesday morning. And they're beginning to become the full of the nest now.
Yeah.
And just begin to move around a bit. But just when you open the bonnet and just rattle the grid in front of it, there are 4 little hungry beaks look up at you. So.
And where's she? Where's Mummy?
Mummy she waits for me at the gate, and she has 2 or 3 places that she can perch near where the Jeep is parked. And every time I come in, she's waiting, very agitated, look in her eye, you know, the way women can look at you when you're in trouble. And she has looked after them so far. But I have to keep using the Jeep, and I'm just wondering, I'm afraid to touch it.
Yeah, and she'd want to be, at this stage, they'd need a lot of feeding, an awful lot of feeding, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And she'd be constantly feeding, and it's very tricky if you interrupt the feeding pattern, apparently.
So I believe,
yeah.
And if I touched the nest or anything like that she would leave it then probably. I don't really know, but it's a bit of advice I'm looking for now, or how long.
What to do,
or how long might it take for them to get up and out and gone.
Well, obviously you don't want to get a shovel to it.
No, I don't. I'm not.
No, you don't.
I leave nature alone.
No, you don't sound like you do.
No. I just
what are you going to do?
That's my question to you now.
Well, I wonder, here's what we need to know, and if there's anybody who can help us out in this, we may have to go further afield and get some expert advice. Can you move the nest, and what would happen? And if you were to move it, where would you put it?
Where would I put it, yeah.
And because, the other options aren't great, to be honest. Just leave the... Because she'll be there for another... How long would it be? Another fortnight, would it? I'm completely
in
the dark. Yeah.
I'm completely in the dark now, because as I say, I leave nature to its own devices and let it work away, and I would watch.
But you're able to identify the fact that they're wagtails.
Oh yes, and I've often seen wagtails have a habit of, back when we used to have wing mirrors on cars, wagtails have a habit of doing a lot of looking at themselves in a mirror, but they would leave their track behind them. But now, as the penny slowly dropped with me, I saw that the mirrors, the door mirrors on the Jeep now, but there was no trace of where she had fouled on the Jeep or anything like that. That it took the penny a long time to drop and for me to look under the bonnet.
Well, I mean, when she was really up against it, wasn't she, to make the nest?
To make the nest.
With you moving in and out of the Jeep all the time, driving it around. And also the instinct, the old maternal instinct must be very strong for her to wait for the Jeep to come back.
Wait. Yes. Now, I was up the road. Now, what woke me up a little bit more to it, I was up the road about half a mile or a little less one evening. I was up there for an hour or more, and she must have followed me. And actually, a son of mine drove the Jeep out across the road with a car trailer to do something in a field out across the road yesterday, and eventually she followed them out, but just flew around.
Okay.
You know, that she's adamant about what she's at.
And have you seen her feeding them?
I saw her. I've only actually seen her once waiting with food.
And what had she got?
Oh, it looked like little grubs or something.
Yeah.
Now, and there's a pole just near where the Jeep is parked, and she was sitting on the top of the pole. Now, I couldn't actually see what it was, but actually, I've only actually seen her with something once. Now, whether they feed and regurgitate or
no, I think what happens is that she feeds herself, and then she regurgitates partially masticated or digested food, which is easier for the the hatchlings to actually digest. But they're very demanding. I mean, their instinct is gimme, and the minute they open their gobs, I think it's the visual, the sight of the chick's open mouth. There's a tongue. And the noise, between those three things, she is compelled until her wings fall off to keep feeding them until then they eventually fall out of the nest and make their own way in life. So let's see what we can find out for you.
Yeah, and when I go to the local shop for the paper in the morning, I mention it to a cousin of mine, and he came, had a look in under the bonnet, and now everybody was called to have a look, and every morning now when I go for the paper, we all have to have a peep under the bonnet to see how they're doing.
So you've become a kind of a local attraction.
Local attraction, yeah.
Where is this, by the way, Ian?
I'm down between Gorey and Wexford.
Between Gorey and Wexford. Well, this could be a great addition to the tourist industry there.
Well, the weather is
the weather wouldn't bring them, says you. Maybe the wagtails will. All right, we're going to find out for you. We've a number of people on the books who would know an awful lot more about this than I do, and I presume even those listening this morning will be able to help us out. Now, the one solution that's not available is chucking the thing into the bin, right? He's not interested in that, so don't even suggest it. 1850, no, and omelettes not suggested either. That's too late now, they've hatched. 1850 715 922. You're a decent man, Ian. A good man. Many other fellas would have just thrown it straight over the hedge. All right.
That's not my way.
All right. God bless and good luck to you.
Bye-bye.
Isn't that nice to hear that somebody cares, that somebody's worried enough to make the phone call to try and find a solution to this problem. And, you'll often find the people who work in farms and or who, work the land or who indeed who work on the periphery of the agricultural industry or the agrarian economy, as we now refer to it. But, they don't have time for these things. They can't most of the time. They can't be too sentimental. There's a living to be made, and it's a pretty short margin, as the man said. But on this occasion, I think we found a fellow with a heart here, and let's see if we can help him out. Can he move the nest? Can he actually move it? And if he can move it, how should he do it? And where would you put it? And will she continue to feed the chicks? Will she stay with them? Because otherwise it would seem that the only other option is to actually just not use the Jeep for the next few weeks. And what's he going to do for work? Barry, good morning.
Gerry, good morning. How are you?
This sounds pretty scary, Barry.
Well, you might be able to give us a solution to a small problem we have. I'm calling you from Rathgrum in Hidden Valley Holiday Park. And we have a little corralled lake there, and we do a little bit of boating for kids and stuff like that. And the ducks are always a great feature with adults and the kids.
It's nice to see them
it is.
playing around, quacking.
Absolutely. And one day, when my son and I were feeding the ducks, out comes this little duck with 8 behind her.
Yeah.
And a wonderful sight. And after maybe 3 or 4 days, or maybe 5 days, they were actually able to get up onto dry land. So we were carefully feeding them soft crumbs, and everything was going well. And then about a week later, when we're feeding them this particular day, out comes another duck with 10 ducklings behind her.
Yeah.
Now, these were not much bigger than golf balls. They were the smallest things I've ever seen.
Just newly hatched ducklings.
Brand new. So now we have 18 ducklings, several ducks, and a lot of drakes. So the whole place is looking great. We think this is going to be a wonderful attraction for the summer.
Who needs the zoo when you've got this?
Absolutely. So everybody, of course, is on the fence. They're feeding them and looking after them. Now, the mother of the 8 ducklings didn't take too kindly to the arrival of the 10 ducklings.
Really?
And we think that's because she had kind of established her patch and her feeding ground with us.
Yeah, they're very territorial.
Well, this other 10 were going to, as far as she was concerned, mooching in on her.
And I mean, and the drakes are very violent. It's not a rape in the duck world.
Well,
there is, yeah.
This was next thing. A holy row broke out one day, and the mother of the 8 chased away. She tried to eat 1 or 2 of the 10 small ducklings, and the mother of the 10 fought that off. Anyway, there was a huge row. So we didn't see the 10 ducklings for a while, and we thought we have a little island in the centre of the lake.
So they'd kind of retired there.
We thought maybe that was it. So we went out. We did some investigations, and we couldn't see them at all. No sign, and we couldn't figure it out anyway.
Had sales of orange or plum sauce increased in the local shop?
Oh, God, I'd hate to think so now. God almighty. But however, the mother of the 8 was still around. And the next thing one day, she turned up, and she'd only 5. And then she turned up 2 days later, and she has 1. So now we are reduced to the mother with 1 duckling. So we couldn't figure this out anyway until we discovered that we have an otter.
Yes. Perfect. It's pals of mine, a very large pond in a country home. I mean a really big one, size of your back garden. Full of beautiful koi fish, you know, the Japanese fish. I've got some of them.
Koi carp, yeah.
Yeah. Otters get in. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And you know the cartoon image of a fish after a cat's got its paws on it, where there's just the head and the bones of the skeleton. That's what they did in 5 minutes to something like 30 carp.
God. Well, you see, the thing,
so
Gerry,
they'd have ducks. Ducks they'd taken their stride.
In order to get to this lake, you have to come from the river to the lake. Now, the otter's been seen in the river.
Oh, yeah. They're vicious
come
little...
from the river to the lake.
They're vicious little otters.
Well, you have to cross land for maybe 100 metres.
Yeah.
So apparently that's not a problem for them.
Oh, not at all. No. They've no problem with that. Otters and ferrets. Nature's little rippers.
So anyway, how can we not necessarily get rid of the otter?
Stop it. How can you stop it? Okay, I'll tell you what. We've got Richard Collins, I think, coming on after Knob Nation, and he's going to help us out with the wagtail issue. All right. So we will see what we can we get some answers regarding your otter problem.
Fantastic.
Okay, stay tuned.
Thanks, Gerry.
Mary, good morning to you. How are you?
Good. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, Mary. But you weren't so happy not so long ago.
No, not really, Gerry. No, I'll tell you, I came back from Manchester on Sunday night after the flight was delayed about an hour and a half. So I flew into Dublin Airport about 10:15 and went to, I had parked my car in the long-term car park, which was my first time to do it, because usually I go out with my husband, and you know the way when you're a passenger, you sort of sit there and you really don't observe that much. So anyway, parked my car on Saturday morning very early. Had tried the other 2 car parks and they were full. So I had to go down, it's the long term. It's down by St. Margaret's. It's quite out of the way when you go in.
It's quite a bit away, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So parked the car very quickly and was running late because, as I said, the other 2 car parks were full at 7:45 in the morning. So came back Sunday night and duly got off the bus, paid my ticket, and off the bus at about 9:45. It was kind of dusky. It was just about getting dark. And I proceeded to get off it, which I thought was late. It was V13. I was clear it was 13 in my head, and I was clear that it was V. So walked up and down, and I was carrying my hand luggage, which was quite heavy. You know, women, when they go away for a night, they have the whole kitchen sink in the bag. So it was quite heavy. So I walked up and down, Gerry, for about, it was 11. It started to rain, 11:30. So eventually the security man came over and he said, "I'll help you. Let me take your bag." So he took one aisle and he said, we'll comb each side. So still proceeded up and down, in through, and it was pouring rain and I was saturated. So it was about 10 to 12 and the security man eventually went off. He went off helping somebody else, because I kind of felt I'd taken up enough of his time. So at this stage, Gerry, I was convinced my car was stolen. And then this young couple came along, John. They were in a Volkswagen, and she was Roisin. She was driving the car, and they said to me, oh, we'll look for your car with you. And I said, oh, no, it's definitely stolen. It's not where I parked it. So they said to me, no, let's take you home, and, can you come back tomorrow?
And I was in tears now. I was really upset because I thought, oh, what a faux pas I've made. But anyway, got into the car, and he was John, and he was from Athlone, a young couple, and Roisin was her name. And they were after getting engaged, and they had flown over to Brussels to tell her mother and father. And they took me home, Gerry, to Furhouse. I had no phone. My phone was dead. My credit was out, another faux pas. And they duly took me home. And I just would like to really put out a really big thank you to both of them. There is really goodness around. I mean, I don't like accepting help in general, because, it's...
I know, but it sounded a bit like you were sort of fairly helpless at that stage yourself.
Absolutely. But, Gerry, you won't believe, my husband wasn't too pleased with me because to make such a mistake. Went back the next morning. I hadn't gone in right into the car park. I'd gone in left. I'd gone in the other side, and my car was up the other end, would you believe? I was in, say, I think it was X13. I had the number right. But it's just to put out there for people that they really...
So you actually had the number right, but there was a kind of mirror image of the car park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And would you credit, I was actually going up towards it when the security man, because I said, I'll go up the other end, because as I said, from first time to do it, I said, I'll go up the other end, but this very nice security man as well, he had a bald head, excuse the expression, he said to me, let's go back down. So he actually, I think he threw me a little bit. If I hadn't met him, I would have continued up to go to the right to the other end, and probably would have found it.
You must have been completely freaked out thinking the car was taken.
Oh, Gerry, because I really thought it was taken, because I was clear I was only 4 cars in, because I parked it really quickly. So I knew that, the other mistake I made was I got off the bus real quick. So I was the last to get on the bus. So I was in such a state between, I suppose, thinking that the car was gone, that I wasn't really thinking. Afterwards I thought, oh my God, you just made such a faux pas, But... That's the story.
Well, what did your husband say to you when you came home?
Oh, do you know something? He's the best in the world, but things like that, he said, look, hon, he said, you're always wanting to go out there. He made me go out and park my own car because I was going to see my son on my own. And he said, you're always saying you're not to be doing things because if anything happened to you... So I really learned a lesson, and I think for everybody just to write down. He wasn't too pleased, so we had a bit of a tiff, and I was a bit annoyed with him because he didn't ask me was I drenched, had I credit.
Oh yeah, it's what I call the crash syndrome. The first thing I remember, my father taught me this. Yeah. He said, first thing he said, if your wife or your girlfriend rings you up and says, "I've been in a crash," particularly if it's in your car, do not say how badly damaged is the car. Immediately say, are you okay? Because that's all that matters.
I know.
And that's kind of, of course it's easy to say that with hindsight, but
it is really.
He probably looked at you and went, you big lummox. What are you doing walking around backwards with half your eyesight gone?
Absolutely.
But you know what, once you start panicking, then you see the game is up.
Oh, sure, totally.
And that's it. You get into a complete tizzy, and then you begin to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
And you haven't written it down. You're cursing yourself for not writing it down. Mm-hmm. You're cursing yourself for being in such a rush in the first place.
Exactly. And
also, you're kind of cursing yourself for why am I driving myself up here? Why didn't I just get a taxi?
I know, absolutely. But I'm fairly near the airport, and I was very pleased that I got there. But what also...
I'm 2 minutes from the airport, and I wouldn't say I've brought the car to the airport for 15, 17 years.
My God.
It's just not worth it.
No, in the long run.
You get into the taxi brings you to departures, you get out of the taxi, and it's bye-bye, nothing, no parking, no nothing whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in general, Gerry, there's so many nice people.
Your faith in humanity obviously seems to have been restored by the experience, that was good.
But I would do that. I personally, myself, that girl, Roisin, she worked actually in somewhere in Wicklow, but she said to me, I'd love if somebody helped me. And I would be that type of person myself now, and saying it, that I'd love to help somebody
What happened
out.
when you went back home with the car?
Oh, no, I was very pleased, but everything was going around in my head that why did I not go up the full length of the car park, and turn...
Well, because you were freaked out, that's why. That's why, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you had the notion, you were beginning to think, did I even come in the car at this stage? Yeah.
Exactly. And you actually convince yourself that I actually parked it there.
Yeah. But also, women have a fantastic ability to go, no.
Yeah.
It's left. It's left. I mean, the number of times I've heard the absolute categoricalites swear on my children's lives. And then you go, well, why is it over there then?
I know.
The thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And, oh, right. As a matter of fact, they take the fun, they make you out of that particular attitude on a great ad that it's on the radio. You probably heard.
Yeah.
When she says, "It's left, it's left, it's left," and he says, "You mean right?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the other left.
Oh, the other left. That's
Anyway,
very good.
look, all's well that ends well.
Oh, and would you just...
And you had a very positive experience.
Oh, absolutely. And the couple, they were young and they were getting engaged. She's 3 sisters and she's from Ranelagh. And would you believe I asked them their surnames getting out of my car?
And you've forgotten that now,
But
haven't
actually,
you?
I've forgotten. But I'm sure somebody, she got engaged just at the weekend.
Do you know your own surname, do you?
I do. Of course I do.
But you remembered where you lived. You were able to get back there.
Yeah. That's funny now.
Oh, God
That's
help
not
you.
funny, I mean.
Oh, okay. You're going on holidays, are you?
No, I'm back from holidays.
You're
I was
back
in
from
America earlier on. And
right.
we found the car after that.
You found America, did you?
I did.
All right, Mary. Thanks
Gerry,
for sharing
thank
that
you
story.
so much.
Good
Thanks
luck.
a million.
Bye,
Take
bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
I mean, they are very big car parks, and it's very easy to get lost there. Check out Walt Disney World's car parks. There's a good place for getting lost. Oh, yeah. I mean, they have fantastic transportation facilities, but if you don't take a really clear mental note of where you're meant to be going, you could be there a couple of months later still looking for your car, and it's a dreadful experience to be lost. And many years ago, I experienced it even in the smaller car parks, coming back from, a mad weekend in London or something like that, and you're sort of hungover and tired, and you can't remember you did. It's very quickly you become convinced that, it's stolen, but no. So check out the bigger car parks. But really, to be honest, I don't know why anybody would bother when you've got a taxi and a pretty good air coach service as well, why you would bother bringing your own car. I don't understand that at all. Obviously, for those of you who live far away, it's not an option other than to do that.
How are yous? Taoiseach Bertie Ahern here. Look, I need a permanent girlfriend. So this goes out to all the women of Ireland. These are the reasons why I would make the best boyfriend in the world. I change me wife fronts every 2 days. I do a cracking rasher sandwich when the head'll be hanging off you in the morning. Because of bunions, I wash me feet and cut me toenails. I'm a keen gardener, especially the hanging baskets, and I'll keep your garden in order. I'll let any bird use me Mac tree. I'll sneak out of bed during the night to brush me teeth, just to make sure I don't have morning breath. I'm an early riser, if you get me drift. I watch Coronation Street, EastEnders and Fair City, so I won't have to argue over the telly. I like the odd bit of text flirting. After all, text is sex. I'm a good shift, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I do like the odd snack box. I'm a big fan of Neil Diamond, the Bee Gees and the Prodigy, but don't worry, I won't smack me bitch up. I'm in need of a girlfriend, a knacker or a posh tot. How are you, gorgeous? In need of a girlfriend from Santry or Fox Rock. Hey girls, check out me 6-pack. I'm in need of a girlfriend, cause I never seem to get a lot. Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. In need of a girlfriend, don't care if she isn't hot. I'm a granddad, but it works downstairs. I love animals, cats, foxes, hippos, and particularly a bit of beaver. I've no time for dogs. I'll go to the video shop for you. I love the old westerns, John Payne and, of course, Flint Eastwood. I'll buy you flowers and get you a free pass to the botanical gardens. I'll introduce you to me best pals, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and, of course, Paddy the Plaster. I'm very faithful, I'll give up the old presidential snogs on the second date. I'd photocopy me arse and fax it to you from the Taoiseach's office during working hours. I won't go through your mobile phones and emails interrogating you about who you're flirting with. I've a nipple piercing. I'll accidentally on purpose leave some sexy shit like me long johns or something in your car. I promise to take me makeup off before going to bed so I won't leave a stain on the pillowcase. I still have all me teeth, and after I dump you, don't bleed and tell me that you're up the pole. I'm in need of a girlfriend, a knacker or a posh tot. Believe you me, I'm not bleeding fussy. In need of a girlfriend, from Ballymun or Castleknock. Don't care where you come from, you're coming home with me. I'm in need of a girlfriend. Trackies or a sexy top. You don't have to wear anything at all. I'm gonna be a great boyfriend. I'll even let you go on top. By the way, I have no problems with facial hair. I don't mind birds with an owl moustache. And remember, I'm the bleeding Taoiseach. I run the shagging place. Pun intended. You know where to find me, girls. Thanks.
At midnight tonight, bookshops all over the country and, in fact, all over the world, approximately, will be keeping their doors open to facilitate thousands of eager children and adults awaiting the final instalment of the Harry Potter story, Harry Potter and the Deadly Hallows. Well, it's the 7th book in J.K. Rowling's magical world of Harry and his pals in Hogwarts. And we're joined now by the numero uno Harry Potter fan, Imogen. Imogen, if you recall, if you were listening to the Gerry Ryan Show, won a fantastic competition to meet J.K. Rowling in person back in July of 2005 at Edinburgh Castle, and she even attended a Hogwarts banquet. She's very much looking forward to the book, not surprisingly. And Imogen, welcome back to the programme.
Morning, Gerry.
I believe you're in a wheelchair at the moment, Imogen.
I am, yeah. I had a horse riding accident about 5 weeks ago.
What happened to you?
I fell off a horse.
Well, I suppose that would be the kind of thing that would happen in a horse riding accident. But how badly injured are you?
I broke my hip.
Wow, that's quite serious, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'll be out of my wheelchair soon and walking around on crutches. But no more sport for a year.
No more sport for a year. No more activity for a year. So the Harry Potter release comes at just the right time for you, doesn't it? You need all the distraction you can possibly get. Have you seen the new movie?
Yeah,
Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
It was brilliant. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, I must admit. And I was kind of a bit iffy about the teenager Harry Potter cutting the mustard. But I really, it was only a few seconds and then I was used to the new, almost adult characters that are there now. It was kind of like a kung fu movie, I thought. There was a lot of action in it.
There was a lot of action and the special effects were brilliant.
They're really good. And it was a rollicking version of the story. Of course, a lot of people say that it doesn't really reflect the book. Did you think it did?
I thought it did an awful lot.
Yeah.
They had everything in it, I thought.
I loved it, though. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I'm not too sure. I thought Hermione and Ron, I don't think that works. I'd prefer Hermione and Harry to be together. But, J.K. Rowling did not want it to be that way. I'm not so sure whether I'm completely sold on the kissing scene either. My 11-year-old fella had to be given oxygen after it. Anyway, that's Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. As yet, of course, the Deadly Hallows movie has yet to grace our screens. Quite some time to go, I would imagine, before that's completely finished. So I'm sure they've started on it already. Now, you won this fantastic prize on the show on this very show, back in June of 2005 to go to Edinburgh, and you met J.K. Rowling. Now, I saw her interviewed by Jonathan Ross recently. She was quite difficult to interview. She's a very reserved woman. What was she like to meet privately?
Oh, she was brilliant, but as you said, she was very reserved. She wouldn't let she wouldn't tell us anything about the new book. She wouldn't tell us, she was very quiet.
And was she a bit like Cruella de Vil? I mean, was there a bit of, say another word and I'll kill you?
Oh, no, she was very nice. She was lovely. Just she wouldn't let anything go. All a secret.
Well, she kind of protects the legend and indeed, more to the point, the sanctity of the publication, like a mother protects a newborn child. I mean, I can tell you, I know from my experience, if you do anything that goes against the wishes of the Harry Potter brigade, you get into big trouble, and you get into it very, very quickly. But I suppose it's a very valuable product, and they have to do that. Now, the 7th book, Harry Potter and the Deadly Hallows. By the way, because I wanted to ask you about this, the Hogwarts banquet, what was that like?
Oh, that was brilliant. We all went into a big room and there was tables and they were covered in
a feast.
Yeah, it was wow. It was unbelievable. There was
what kind of things were on the table?
Every sort of food you would like. They had special names for them all. There was everything. There was like lamb, and there was chicken, and there was everything.
And had they, you know, the way in the book, and certainly in the film, it's even more sort of pronounced. Do they have like 1,000,001 desserts?
Oh, there was tons. There was like eclairs and jelly covered in snakes, and it was everything.
And did she actually talk to you? Did J.K. Rowling actually talk to you?
Yeah, we had we went in and we interviewed her one of the days, and we all got to ask her one question.
What did you ask her?
I asked her how much her life had changed since she had written the Harry Potter books.
A lot, I would say. What did she say to that?
She said that her life had changed an awful lot. Like, she couldn't go into an internet cafe and not be noticed, but she had met the Queen and she had travelled the world. All those things she wouldn't have done if she hadn't have written the books.
Isn't it amazing, Imogen, to think that this woman was, you know, looking after her children? I think she was a single mother, if I recall. Wasn't that it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
She was sitting in a restaurant or a cafe, probably more likely, and she decided that she was going to write something for the kids, write a story for them, and that's how it started.
Yeah. And now she's like a multi-millionaire.
But you have to, I mean, really, her imagination. I just have so much respect for the fantastic quality of the things that she can imagine. I mean, it's just this world. When you think of it, you know, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but has anybody been to Hogwarts really? No. Has anybody seen dragons? Has anybody ever played Quidditch? Has anybody ever seen magic really work? And yet she makes you feel by the time you finish the book as if you've been there, you know, and back.
Yeah, and if it's really out there.
Yeah. You really do feel it's out there somewhere. If only you could just get onto, what's the number of the platform that goes to Hogwarts?
At 9 3/4.
9 3/4. If you could only just make your way through that wall, right? Fantastic. Oh, God. What a lucky woman. But she keeps her counsel very private. She wasn't giving anything away to Jonathan Ross. And, you know, he usually gets a pretty you know, open reaction from the people that he interviews. Now, Harry Potter and the Deadly Hallows, the 7th and final book. Do you believe it's the final book?
I can't believe, I mean, it's all over now. It's unbelievable. I think you're going to really upset when it's over.
Why do you think she's doing that?
Oh, she has to finish it at sometime, I'd say. And I don't know, I'd say a few main characters are going to die tonight. Which I actually know that because she said that. That was one of the questions.
So it's going to be a bit like The Sopranos.
Yeah, but
we know that there are characters who will die, and in fact, I think there are a couple of radio stations in the United States have already revealed the names, much to the annoyance of the author.
Yeah.
And her lawyers have come down with their magic wands, and they're going to be weaving some very dark spells across those who've given away the information. But what we want you to do, we don't want you to be breaking the rules. We want you to get your hands on the book. Are we getting the book for her, are we? Yeah? I think so, yeah. And we want you to read it over the weekend. Do you think you could manage that?
Yeah, I'm going to Borders tonight. I can't wait. So
Borders, of course, is your local bookstore, isn't it?
No, I'm going to Blanchardstown because they have a big party on there.
Do they? I love Borders.
Yeah.
These are the same guys that have one of the best bookshops in the world in New York. It's fabulous. They've got, it's great. You can eat sticky buns and drink fantastic coffee from all sorts of different parts of the world and read books, and they've got great magazines and everything. It's like an Aladdin's cave if you're interested in reading.
Yeah.
So you're off to a party in Borders in Blanchardstown.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that sounds like it's going to be fun, and you'll get the book there.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're going to get the book?
Oh, I'm definite. They have about 2,000 books.
And you've got yours booked, have you?
No, I haven't got mine booked. They just said, you have 2,000. There's not going to be 2,000 people there tonight. Okay, well, I hope not. Anyway, but you've got your place at the party. That's the most important thing. Because I want you to read the book over the weekend and then come back to us, if you can, on Monday and give us your opinion. I will. I wonder how big it is compared to the other books. I don't know. I have no idea. I hope it's a lot bigger anyway. Do you? Because you just don't want it to end. No, I don't want it to end. Just out of curiosity, who was your favourite character in the Order of the Phoenix story? I think it had to be Harry, obviously.
Well, Harry, that's a given. Everybody loves Harry. Okay, but if we leave Harry aside...
I like Luna Lovegood. I thought she was very good.
And she didn't have much script, but I thought that she was very imposing.
She was
There's something very kind of mystical about her. She had a great look, in her eyes and her flowing blonde hair. She was quite magical, I think.
She was, and at some stages it was as though she wasn't there, and then other times she was more aware of everything than anyone else.
Yeah. It's a great break for Ivana Lynch. And Ivana Lynch was no different from you, Imogen. She was just a Harry Potter fan who got the gig, and as it turned out, was perfect. What about Seamus? He's growing up to be a great bloke, isn't he? A great little hairstyle and everything. Sorry about what I said about your ma, Harry. I laughed, actually, but I mean, it was just so hysterical, the big Dublin accent popping out of Seamus. They should give him more. I thought he should have had more, but there you go, I suppose. It's good that he's there in the first place. All right, now you enjoy the party tonight and have a fantastic time, and I expect you to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday with lots to say.
I will be.
Okay.
Okay.
Go off and be magical. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Gerry.
That's Imogen, our Harry Potter reviewer. Of course, the book goes on sale at midnight tonight. Enjoy. When you think about it, it is wonderful. It's not a video game. This is a book, a good old-fashioned book, of which there are 250,000 coming into this country. A couple of years ago, the children's book section was usually at the back of the bookshop, and they had a lot of trouble shifting them, and most kids just couldn't be bothered. The only books they read were the ones that they were forced to read when they went to school. So J.K. Rowling's done a great service from that point of view. She really has brought children back to the magic of the printed word, for there's nothing like it when you open up that book, whether it's lying in bed at night with a torch or on a rainy day curled up on the couch, and you scan the print, and then you start being sucked into the story. And then before you know it, you've 200 or 300 pages under your belt. There's no better experience. Nothing compares to it. When you've got somebody on the other side of the page having created something as wonderful as J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. Now, let's reacquaint ourselves with Michael. Michael was heading off to run before the Bulls of Pamplona. A controversial, but nonetheless very exciting prospect. How did he get on? Michael, good morning to you.
Morning, Gerry. How are you?
Very good. Now, we were all kind of partially frightened by what you were planning to do, and very envious, really. I think some of us, not all of us, but certainly I was. I wanted to go and do it. I wanted to be there wearing the white outfit and the red scarf and running before those bulls. You've done it. How'd you get on?
Yeah, we went over. There was 21 of us.
Not for the first time either.
No, I did it 5 years ago with Hector the last time.
Hector O'Higgins, by the way, folks. Hey, come on, let's run before the Bulls!
I think he was just looking to find anybody Irish, and he heard an Irish accent, and he was over the moon.
He's just the man for it, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But 21 of us went over last Friday the 13th. We left Dublin, headed out flew to Victoria, which is about an hour away from Pamplona, and we were picked up there by bus and brought into Victoria City, and we had some pinchos, which are the local kind of tapas, lovely food, and we headed into Pamplona later on that night. But there were 19 of us running. I'd done it before, and when we arrived on the Friday night, we opened up the local newspaper, which is Diario de Navarra. Navarra is the region, so it's the Navarra Diary, and that carries 40 or 50 pictures every day for the festival of various different angles and what's happened. And it's a bit like opening a catalogue for a Formula One race. You have each day they have the list of the bulls on the left-hand side of the page, and the bulls all have different names: El Casido, El Diablo, and they give the bull weights, they give the wind speed, they give the average speed for the day's run the day before. They have caricatures of what happened on each corner, kind of...
Because the corners are where they wet the corners, don't they, so the bulls will slip?
They wet the corners in a lot of places, so the bulls deliberately slide out, and that caused a lot of mayhem. But we opened up the newspaper when we got there on Friday, and the front page was, you wouldn't get away with it in Ireland, to be honest. It was a picture of a guy, Michael Lenihan was the chap's name, and he was he fell on a corner, and the bull fell with him, and he actually got gored through the leg, and the bull was actually lifting him off the air.
With his horn?
With his horn. The horn had gone in just above his ankle.
And could you see your man's face?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, clear as day, yeah, absolutely. If you go to Diario...
Can you imagine what that would be like? Wow.
Unbelievable. So obviously that sent a ripple of fear to the group of party travellers who were feeling very brave, with a few drinks on board at this stage,
But when you look at something like that, did you have any virgins with you, by the way? Were there any first-timers?
They were all virgins except for me.
Yeah. So, when they saw the picture of Michael with the horn going through his legs, did they not kind of go, ooh, maybe this isn't such a good idea?
There were a lot of them there having second thoughts, and then it dawned on them, hang on, today's the 13th. And then our local guide, Adrian Inchiraga, he's from the Basque region, from Vitoria, and he's best friends with the guy who's getting married, Gavin. He informed us then, he said, guys, tomorrow, Saturday, it's going to be the busiest, hardest, toughest day. The biggest bulls run on the Saturday because it's the last day of the festival. The biggest, most dangerous bulls are kept till the last day because generally that's when there's more people running. So the festival ends at midnight on Saturday the 14th.
The biggest, most dangerous bulls.
Yeah.
So
we saw this guy's name, Lenihan. So I said, geez, he must be Irish, Yeah. As it turned out, his brother also got gored that day in the buttocks.
Horn in the bum.
In the buttocks, yeah. They were both in hospital.
You sound like Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
I got a horn in the buttocks.
Not the place you'd want it, all right.
No, God.
But it turned out the two guys, I thought they were Irish. I said, geez, this must be all over the news at home. But they're actually from Philadelphia, obviously, of Irish extraction. Seamus Lenihan and Michael Lenihan were the two guys' names. So, Friday night, there was obviously a lot of chat after the meal. We had an incredible rib steak meal in this restaurant. Gerry, I know you're a gastronomic,
Yeah, I might be having a little steak at lunchtime myself, as a matter of fact.
This was just incredible food, absolutely incredible food.
And this was the night before?
The night before, yeah.
This is kind of like the condemned man's meal.
It was, for a lot of people, I think they were thinking this might be the last supper,
Yeah.
But
and there's no precautions you can take. There's no body armour. I mean, you can't wear the stuff that the stab vest the guards wear, and you'd look like a madman. Anyway,
you're not allowed to bring anything that'll impede you, like a backpack. You're not allowed to wear improper clothing, footwear, anything like that. The police will just pull you straight out.
Yeah.
Straight out. They don't take any grief like that. But the locals respect the tradition, and they like you to respect the tradition in a big way too.
And so you have your meal, a couple of bevos.
And then you go out, Gerry. It's 8 days. It doesn't stop. We had people who'd been there for who'd arrived on the Tuesday, and they made it through Tuesday, all through Tuesday night. Had a couple of hours sleep. It was very, very hot. It was 38 degrees last Friday when we landed.
Yeah, sure. I know. I was talking to a guy who's just back from Torremolinos, and it was 40 degrees in Torremolinos.
You stay up all night boozing and drinking. It's a 24-hour party. It's an absolute spectacle. And the good thing is, Gerry, you can square it away with your mammy and your granny because it's actually a religious festival, baby.
Of course it is. Yes.
San Ferman is the patron saint of the city. At the start of the run every morning at 8 o'clock, the locals all parade down to the bottom of the road, just in front of where the bulls come out, and there's a statue there at San Ferman, and they all stand there chanting and singing and praying for 2 minutes until the bulls are released, But we got to the stage.
Did you have your kit? You had your white outfits, did you?
That was part and parcel of the thing. You had to be fully decked out in the whole gear.
And your red sashes, yeah.
Red sash, red scarf. Everybody had white. They'd all gone to Dunn stores and had a 3 for 30 deal where you could buy a cotton trousers, cotton t-shirt and a cotton shirt for all white for 30 quid. So they brought them and then bought the scarves and the sashes when they got there. But everybody stayed up all night long, Gerry. Nobody went to bed on the Friday. And at any point, you'd still think it was only 11 o'clock at night because the crowds in the main square, the Plaza de Castillo.
Heaving, yeah.
Absolutely heaving. Full of Australians, a lot of them, more Americans actually than the last time. Because,
the Americans, of course, are obsessed with Hemingway's description of it. Yeah, The
Sun Also Rises, one of the famous books he wrote, and the other one I think is called Siesta.
Yeah, and it really is, for many young Americans who can afford to, well, of course, a lot more now, it's a rite of passage for them,
Absolutely. Well, a lot of them tend to be, college guys, college graduates, and heading over
Well, it's a great thing, as you're working on Wall Street, to be able to look back on, well, I may be wearing a shirt and tie now, but there was a time.
My neck on the line.
Yeah.
My neck on the line. But we stayed up all night long, and I made the decision. I'd seen the photograph from the day before, and the guys were saying, we're all going to do it, we're all going to stick together, And I said, you can't stick together. It's just not going to happen.
It's also dangerous to stick together because you need to be focused, I gather, because I haven't done, but I believe you need to be focused on running, not looking over your shoulder.
No, exactly. And the danger is you'll fall on somebody who's actually in front of you, who's trying to look back also. But the run starts at 8 o'clock, Gerry. I got up, I decided I'd been close to danger. I'd seen one person go behind me and one in front of me the last time I was there. And I just thought to myself, if it had been 20 yards up or 20 yards back, a little bit slow, a little bit faster, that could have been me. Because it is all down to pot luck. You could be, Ben Johnson, Linford Christie, it does not matter. You could be fat, you could be skinny. It's all down to pot luck. If you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, something bad will happen. Now, they only started keeping records since 1924, and 13 people have died since 1924. 2 people were killed in 1947 by one bull. In 1980, 2 people were also fatally killed, injured by one bull also. It is absolutely pot luck. And with 4,000 people bunched into a 500-metre, space, because you're not allowed to stand at the top of the track or the bottom of the track, it is just absolute pot luck.
And they seal off the pavement.
They seal off the first 100 metres.
Yeah.
And they seal off the last 200 metres before you enter the stadium, which is where the bulls essentially end up in the bull ring, where, they're pushed across the back of the arena of the bull ring. But I made the decision. I'd been close the last time. I was going to get my ticket and sit in the stadium and wait for the bulls to arrive in there with my camera, which I did. And that was just a spectacle in itself. The cannon goes off at 8 o'clock, and you can hear it all over the city. This huge rocket of a cannon booms, and everybody in the stadium and in the city just shakes, kind of, oh my God. And that means the bulls are released, and they're making their way up through the crowd. But what happened was, about 30 seconds after the cannon went off, about 300-400 people, obviously, who were standing way up the track, decided they were going to head for the stadium and say, oh yeah, we've ran with the bulls. Now, the Spanish didn't like that, so as soon as these 300-400 people came into the stadium, a full 3 minutes ahead of the bulls, the locals just had eggs and bottles and started begging them,
Oh, I like it. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this kind of attitude yesterday. Yeah. Myself and Fiona, as a young man, I'd been to see El Cordobes, the Matador. And the guy that came on before him didn't perform to the satisfaction of the assembled masses.
And they let it be known.
Oh, man, they shagged everything at him. Seats, the lot. Yeah.
But it was.
So there you are. You're all up all night. You've been on the piss, eating steaks. You've now seen the picture of Mr. Lenihan getting it up the How's Your Father? And his brother, by all accounts.
And his brother, yeah.
And his brother. And now you're in your whites and you've got your red sashes and you congregate getting ready for the fiercest bull run of the week, the biggest and most violent bulls.
I went into the stadium, Gerry. The other 19 guys congregated at the bottom of the hill, right in front of where the bulls start. And their idea was to try and run with the bulls all the way to the stadium. Gerry, these bulls can run a mile in 3 minutes. There's no human being is actually going to keep up with them the whole way. And if you think you're going to outrun them, you're silly. But they wouldn't listen to that on the night anyway. So they all congregated at the bottom of the hill. Let's stick together, lads. The bulls came up the hill. It was every man for himself.
Oh, yeah.
Bodies just diving left, right and centre, The fear really kicked in about 2 minutes before the bulls were released. Guys are thinking, geez, we can't get out here now, This is really it. But all the little escape routes that you have planned, the little gaps in the fences that
all comes to nothing once the crowd starts running.
Comes to absolute naught. But it was interesting. Like, I was in the stadium, but I met up with the guys afterwards, and they didn't make it into the stadium. I stayed for the festivities in there, and they were still shaking with the fear. And some of them were kind of, the exhaustion was starting to kick in, but every one of them, said without a doubt, one of the most scariest things they've ever done in their life.
But did they like it? Did they enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of them arrived unscathed at the end line?
Yeah, absolutely. It's everybody arrived unscathed. There were 2 people gored on the Saturday, which is the last day, and I think there was like 24 people trampled in total. But, not serious injuries, trampled by a bull.
I presume a big bull trampling over you would injure you, not maybe kill you, but would injure you quite badly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd probably crush a hand or a little pinky or something like that. All right, yeah, definitely.
And did you run this time with them yourself?
No. That picture on the Friday night made my mind up, and the guys tried to talk me into it, and I said, "Guys,
you bastard!" After bringing them over. Well, do you know what? They deserve extra congratulations, having been led up the garden path by you. But I suppose you had your credentials. You'd already done it. Yeah.
I was determined to see the spectacle in the arena all over again. That's where the real action takes place.
Explain to people, because it's amazing at the end, because the bulls. They literally shoot over the people at the end into the stadium.
What happens is that the 15 bulls that are in the bull run, they actually gradually make their way up into the stadium, and the last corner before they actually enter the stadium, it's called the Devil's Corner, because it goes from a 20-foot wide space to a 10-foot wide space. And obviously, if you have 400 or 500 people trying to run, it's like going into a bottleneck, and that's where I think 5 of the gorings the day before actually occurred. So they come into the stadium. They have the pastores are the local herd farmers. They're wearing green shirts, and they have these huge canes, and they herd all the bulls straight across the stadium into a trapdoor on the far side, and they're kept at the back of the arena for the bullfight later. And in the meantime, you have 500-600 people high on life, because it is a celebration of life, that festival, Gerry.
And of course, the bulls must be up to 90 themselves, so by the time they get into a fight later...
Absolutely. Well,
I presume they're looking at it and going, you're the guys we were chasing, now we've got you.
But what they do is then, for an hour, about 9 or 10 bulls, what they do is, about approximately 8:05, 8:10, there's 500-600 people. Anybody can get into the ring. They shut off the ring, so the only way you can jump out is by jumping over the barrier. The gate to the ring from the road is now shut. And what they do is they have 8 or 9 young bulls that are probably 350, 400 kilograms, which are still pretty big, damn big. They have corked horns. They put corks on the top of their horns, and they put kind of like a padding around their horns also. And what they do is then the locals stand in front of this tunnel where the bulls emerge, and when they get the signal from the doorman slides this big heavy wooden door back, and you can just hear the bull being released at the top of the tunnel and running down the tunnel, and the locals stand, about 200 of them, maybe more, chanting at the front of this tunnel. And and you can tell, obviously, from the guys at the back who are jumping out of the way at the last second, you can tell the bull is about to come out from their body reaction.
Oh, yeah, because they're stiffening,
Yeah, and at the last second, just as the bull jumps, he sees the crowd, he sees the light, and he jumps into the stadium. They all throw themselves to the ground, and the bull always lands somewhere within half of them. So the brave people are either at the front or at the back, because the people in the middle really aren't going to get hit at all. And this happens 8 or 9 times. The bull then goes bananas in the stadium. There's 500-600 people. He's being teased. He's trying to knock people over. He is knocking people over. Like 2 people got taken away by ambulance in the stadium alone that morning.
Good.
He can't actually gore anybody, but he can trample, and he can... The idea is...
I presume if a bull lands on you, that could be curtains, couldn't it?
Could be curtains, yeah.
Death by bull.
Broken bone, if they landed, God forbid, on your back or somewhere like that, in the wrong place.
Paralysed,
Absolutely. Like we heard stories of an American chap who was there last year who is a paraplegic now, he got knocked in the stadium and by a young bull, and it can happen.
My God. Anyway, it sounds incredible. I'll just read you out a text here. Listening to yourself and Michael talking about this disgusting, vile, vicious, deplorable practice is like listening to 2 adolescents celebrating porn. You disgust me, both of you. Deirdre,
golly. I wouldn't know what to say with that. It's a religious festival, Gerry. Like I said,
that's what I said. It's a religious festival.
I'm not a bullfighter. The only person in danger when I did the run was me. There was no bull in danger. I'm not in the ring being paid 100,000 to. No matter what, Gerry, it's their culture.
Oh, do you know something? Listen, I'll leave you with this thought.
1561, Gerry, it's been going since.
Do you know what? I'll leave you with this thought. We have become such a politically correct society that we actually have lost our balls. The Spanish There may be some things that you deplore about what they do, such as bullfighting or bull running, but you know something? They've got balls.
Yeah, they put their foot down.
They've got kahunas. And they're not afraid to say, this is what we do and we're going to do it. Michael, great talking to you again.
Gerry, I hope next year maybe,
Well, do you know what? Let's bring the show. Will we bring the show over?
Therese, Lorraine, Lisa and all the girls there, head over. And
Therese, would you like to run before the bulls, yeah?
But
imagine if you got a big horn stuck into you, though. I mean, God, that'd be dreadful.
Gerry, that's only the smallest part of it. There's concerts on all through the night. It doesn't stop. For 8 days, it does not stop. You have the time of your life.
What about the Lenihan brothers? How are they?
The Lenihan brothers are recovering nicely, the last time I checked on the internet. One of them was only lying face down, though.
Good morning.
See you, Gerry. Take care. Bye.
Gerry